Do you need to do anything with that?
It's all good.
Alright, it's already doing here. Cool. Alrighty, hello. Hello there at home, Chords people. We are going to do a presentation on just intonation tonight. Now, unfortunately, our special guest had to pull out at the last minute. I'm really sorry. No one's more sad about that than me. I was really looking forward to having Andrew here as my co-host so I could be the student and he could be the master and he could answer all my silly questions about just intonation. As it is, I think I've got to grips with the basics at least, and I've got a good presentation to share with you with a lot of material from Andrew in it. So I'll talk you through that, and this is going to be a really fun presentation. We're going to see some awesome graphs, and we're also going to listen to some examples of just intonation versus equal temperament. Excuse us while we move the microphone around and try to untangle all the cables. Cool. Let us know if if at home, I think maybe we moved the camera a little bit there too, Geordie. There we go. Okay, so let us know if there's any issues with the audio and whatnot at home. But yeah, I'm going to begin. So this is just intonation, an alternative tuning system to equal temperament. Here's an overview. Before we can appreciate just intonation, we need to know a bit about equal temperament. Equal temperament is everywhere. It's the most commonly used tuning system in Western music. If you've grown up with music in your life, playing, writing, listening, you've most likely been saturated in equal temperament. We're going to cover some basics of equal temperament and just intonation today, but if you want to discover more, check out the book How Equal Temperament Ruined Harmony. Just do a quick Google search on that. That was recommended by Andrew, and also my housemate Lucas recommended it too. I included this little graphic of a piano keyboard here because pianos are tuned according to equal temperament. So if we use examples tonight, and I say this one is equal temperament, it's what you would hear if you went to the piano and played this chord or whatever that we're listening to. So it's what we're most used to. It's a tuning system we're most used to. But we'll see that equal temperament has flaws as we move on. What is equal temperament? Okay, the following uses information from good old Wikipedia. An equal temperament is a musical temperament or tuning system which approximates just intervals by dividing an octave into equal steps. This means the ratio of the frequencies of any adjacent pair of notes is the same, which gives an equal perceived step size as pitch is perceived roughly as the logarithm of frequency. Okay, that's a whole lot of mathematical terms there. Hopefully that means something to some of you. In classical music and Western music in general, the most common tuning system since the 18th century has been 12-tone equal temperament. That's what we use, which divides the octave into 12 parts, all of which are equal on a logarithmic scale. Pardon me, with a ratio equal to the 12th root of 2. That resulting smallest interval is called a semitone or half step. Here's a diagram. So this is the 12-tone scale that has been commonly used since the 18th century. We've used sharps here, but you could replace C sharp with D flat, D sharp with E flat, and so on. All these sharps could be replaced with their flat counterpart as well. But there's 12 unique notes in an octave in this system. In this tuning system, the octave has been divided into 12 equal steps called semitones. So from one note to the next adjacent note, that's from like a white note to a black note on the piano, is a semitone, and that's the smallest interval that we use in 12-tone equal temperament. Moving on. Okay, some more information about equal temperament. So, In modern times, 12-tone equal temperament is usually tuned relative to a standard pitch of 440 Hz called A440. There's a little tuning fork here, which most tuning forks are tuned to A440, so you knock it on the table, then you put it to your ear and you can hear the note A440. And if you've got good relative pitch, you can figure out everything else from that. So tuned to a relative standard pitch of 440 Hz. Yes, Geordie.
Can we just have a brief intermission to fix some audio issues?
Brief intermission, guys. We're going to fix some audio.
Good to go.
Cool. Should I go back or just pick up?
Yeah, start wherever you like.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll just go from the top here. So in modern times, 12-tone equal temperament, that's what we use, is usually tuned relative to a standard pitch of 440 Hz called A440, meaning one note, A, is tuned to 440 Hz and all other notes are defined as some multiple of semitones apart from it, either higher or lower in frequency. The standard pitch has not always been 440 Hz. It has varied and generally risen over the past few hundred years. And if Andrew were here tonight, he'd tell you that one of his ensembles, the Canberra Bark Ensemble, plays with, I think they play with Baroque instruments, and they tune to A415. So 25 Hertz lower than A440. So yeah, it's not as fixed as you might think, even to this day. Other equal temperaments divide the octave differently. Whoops. For example, some music has been written in 19-tone equal temperament and 31-tone equal temperament, while the Arab tone system uses 24-tone equal temperament. So imagine that we've got, in the Arab music, they have 24 tones in an octave instead of 12. So twice as many notes to play with, basically. That's pretty cool. We can do some pretty cool stuff with that. So, unfretted string ensembles, which can adjust the tuning of all notes except for open strings, and vocal groups who have no mechanical tuning limitations, sometimes use a tuning much closer to just intonation. Some wind instruments can easily and spontaneously bend their tone. Andrew was demonstrating that on a flute you can do this, and also notably trombones do this and can use tuning similar to string ensembles and vocal groups. So we are a vocal group and we can sing in equal temperament, but we cannot, because we are we're not locked into pitches like a piano is, we can slide between the notes. We can sing in between the cracks of the piano, as some people say. Okay, here we start getting into the science of it. So, harmonic series. In every note there is a whole bunch of other notes. They are called overtones, and they occur naturally in an order we call the harmonic series. We can use the numbers on this graphic to find the just ratio between intervals. For example, a major third from C to E is calculated using the ratio 5/4. So we see C's here, E's here, E's got a 5, C's got a 4. The ratio of pitch between these is 5/4. So let's say C was 100. Divide by 4 and get 25, multiply by 5, 125. So if C were 100, then this E, to make a perfect third, that would be 125 Hertz, 100 to 125 Hertz. And here down here is a fifth, so you can use the ratio 3/2 to calculate a perfect fifth. For example, using A440 as our bass note, justly tuned interval. So perfect in the sense that the waves line up in a special way, which you're going to see in just a second. So I'll send this out. This is a really useful graphic to have because if I want to calculate, what a fifth is, or an octave, see that's an octave is 2 over 1, and the fifth is 3 over 2, major third is 4 over 3, perfect fourth is 4 over 3, and so on. Just intervals using physics. Alright, sounds are made of waves. A constant frequency equals a steady pitch. For example, a sound wave at 440 Hz will be the pitch A4, which is the A above middle C. When two different sound waves form a simple ratio from the harmonic series, we get a pure interval. A perfect fifth, which is a common pure interval, is the result of a 2:3 ratio. So for every 2 waves, the fifth above will have 3. So this graphic is courtesy of Andrew Cole. So in the red we see the wave of the, let's call it the tonic. So the lower note is the red wave, and the higher note, which is the fifth, is the blue wave. And so between the start here and this dotted line here, there's 2 red waves, and there's 3 blue waves. So at this point here, they line up exactly, and they start recurring. The pattern begins anew, and so we get another 2 red and another 3 blue. So it's a beautiful little bit of mathematics there, and I think this graph captures it rather nicely. And so that, if we heard that, it would be a perfect fifth. Here are some more similar graphics here, more pure intervals from the harmonic series. So an octave, which is the most consonant kind of interval that we can have. Besides, let's say a perfect unison is when the 2 sound sources have the exact same frequency and they line up beautifully, and so you would just get 2 waves that sit exactly within each other. But the first interval between 2 different pitches that is really consonant, that is the most consonant, is an octave. So in an octave you have 1 red wave and 2 blue waves. The closer together the dotted lines are, the more consonant the interval is. So we see that the octave is the most consonant on this page, the perfect fifth is the next most consonant, and then the perfect fourth is less consonant again. Still a very consonant interval, but not as consonant as the fifth and the octave. So the perfect fifth is a ratio of 2 to 3, so 2 red waves to 3 blue waves. The perfect fourth, 3 red waves to 4 blue waves. And there's a couple more on the next page. So major third is the ratio 4 to 5, so 4 red waves to 5 blue waves. And then the minor third, this is a tricky one. There's actually several kinds of minor thirds that we find in the harmonic series, and knowing which one to use at which time is a point of contention. But anyway, this is the most consonant of the minor thirds, 5 to 6 ratio, so 5 reds to 6 blues, I think. And again, these graphics came from Andrew Cole, so thank you, Andrew. So, equal temperament versus just intonation. This is where we get to the juicy stuff, where we start to have a war between the 2 different tuning systems. So remember, equal temperament is what we use mostly in the Western world, and that's how pianos are tuned to equal temperament. And just intonation is how intervals occur in nature or in physics. So how we tune by ear, basically. Because when you're tuning a note by ear, you're just going by how it feels, and how it feels is kind of dependent on the sound waves you're creating meeting the sound waves of someone else who's singing a different note and trying to find a consonant harmony. And so we do that by ear, and it sounds right when the sound waves line up together. It's just an amazing thing about a cappella harmonies in general, is that we can achieve that beautiful mathematics and physics when we sing. So when tuned according to just intonation, some intervals are significantly different to their equal tempered counterparts. For example, the minor seventh, an interval that we care very much about in barbershop harmony, is significantly narrower or more flat if we tune according to just intonation. So over here, I highlighted the minor seventh here. We'll talk about all of them, but the minor seventh. So this is the equal temperament one that you'd find on a piano, 1.7818. That's the frequency ratio between the root note and the seventh. Not as mathematically pleasing, not as beautiful a number as this one, which is 1.75 even. Lovely, beautiful mathematics over here. So look at the difference, 0.0318. That is a significant difference, especially when you compare it to some of our other common intervals. So let's have a look at the perfect fifth. This is another very, perfect fifths are all through our music in pretty much every chord. So look at the difference here, 1.4983 versus 1.5 on the nose. So that's a very slim difference, 0.0017, which is about 2 cents, or a cent is a 1/100th of a semitone. So 2 cents, and it's almost indistinguishable to our ears. So, so what does this mean? On the piano, the fifth is just ever so slightly too flat, and we want to widen the third, the fifth, just a little bit to make it a just interval. Let's also have a look at the major third, because this is extremely important in our music too. Our music is mostly made up of major thirds, fifths, and flat sevens, with occasional minor thirds and occasional ninths and things like that. So yeah, major third, 1.2599 versus 1.25 on the nose. So on a piano, a major third is too sharp, and it's too sharp by 0.0099, which is about 14 cents, I believe. We'll get to the other graph in a second, which will show us that. So yeah, on the piano, the major third is too sharp, so we need to bring the thirds down. The fifth is too narrow, we need to widen it and make the fifth sharper. And the minor seventh is way too sharp on the piano, we need to flatten that a lot to get it to be a just interval. Next we're going to see and hear some examples of the difference. This is where we get into the juicy stuff. Alright. Equal tempered scale versus just intonation. Continued. Let's listen to a C major chord tuned two different ways. Firstly, using 12-tone equal temperament, which is what you would hear on a piano. Then using just intonation, the notes that the intervals, the perfect pure intervals that occur in physics. So I'm going to open up Audacity in just a second. That's what it looks like. That's what we're going to see in Audacity. Very exciting, I know. And we've got two different chords here. We've got the same chord, but tuned using a different system. So it's a C major chord. C, E, G have the pitches. In the first one, which I've represented in yellow here, it is in equal temperament. So I just took these pitches, these frequencies, from a list which I found online of just all the notes and their frequencies in equal temperament. You can easily just do a quick Google of note frequencies and you'll find that list. So C4, which is middle C, is 261.63. Not a particularly pleasing number, but look at that. G4 is quite a nice number, 392. And then over here we've got the just intonation version. So we've kept the C exactly the same, it's 261.63. The E, you can see, is lower because in just intonation the third needs to be lower, and then the fifth is a teeny bit higher, so 392 versus 392.445. So over here, we can see the difference. So the root note is the same, the third is lower, and the fifth is higher. Now we're going to hear the differences. Now, just keep your hand on the volume control at home, because I'm not sure how loud this is going to be at home. So hopefully you've got your hand on the volume knob, and here we go. We're going to listen to both of them. It's going to be equal temperament first. So this is what you'd hear on the piano. And then the second one is going to be just intonation. So what we're going to do is hear both of them first and let you make up your own mind. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hopefully at home you can hear there is a difference between those two chords. So the first one is, we fix them so that they are perfect ratios or pure simple ratios. Let's hear it again, both chords. First one is equal temperament. And just intonation. Hopefully at home you can hear the difference. I can hear the difference. It's very stark here.
We woke Sandy up.
We woke Sandy up. Let's listen one more time, guys. And we're going to deconstruct and listen to just the fifth and just the third. But here's the full chord again. 3, 2, 1. And just intonation. There we go, 2 different chords, well the same chord but tuned in a different way. So what we can do now, because this is a cool program, I'm going to mute the E, which is the third. So we're just going to hear the C and the G, so this is the open fifth. So remember, if we go back here, the fifth on the piano, so in equal temperament, the fifth is too narrow. As in the fifth is just slightly, ever so slightly too flat. And then in just intonation, we want to lift it a little bit, about 2 cents, 2/100ths of a semitone to fix it and make it a perfect, simple ratio. We have a question though.
Well, it's more so a comment. Mike says that he thought the equal temp chord had a fuller sound or more depth to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting comment, Mike. And when I was first started listening to the 2 chords, I would have said exactly the same. It takes a while for your ear to adjust, and at first maybe you just prefer the equal temperament one because that's probably what we're all used to. I wouldn't say that I've completely turned and now that I prefer just intonation, but I can hear the difference, and sometimes now I want to hear it in just intonation, sometimes I want to hear it in equal temperament. So this might blow some people's minds and change your world forever because everything will sound out of tune forevermore. But yeah, let's listen again. Let's break it down into the fifth. So remember, the fifth in equal temperament is slightly too flat, and then we're going to, in just intonation, it's going to be corrected, or the fifth's going to be lifted a teeny bit, so it's a ratio of 3/2. Here it is. Equal temperament first. And just intonation. Did you hear the difference at home? To me, it sounds cleaner. There's less beats happening in the music or happening in the sound when we get to the just intonation. So let's listen to that fifth again. Equal temperament fifth. Just intonation fifth. I love it so much, we're going to hear it one more time. Equal temperament fifth. Just intonation. Tell me what you thought about that at home, and we'll move on. But do write your comments. Let's hear the third. So this is, so if you remember that, we go back a couple of slides. The third, oh there it is. So a major third is calculated, so it's a 5/4 ratio. So for every 4 waves of the root note, there's 5 waves of the third. So here is a major third. This is equal temperament first, so like on the piano. And now just intonation. did you hear the difference in the third? So remember, in the third, what is the difference? Major third, here we go. So on the piano, the major third is 2 sharp, 1.2599 versus 1.25. So the piano is 2 sharp, so we're going to hear a sharp version of the third, and then it's going to be lowered and turned into just intonation. So here's equal temperament, the sharp version, and just intonation, lower. I don't know about you guys, but to me the second one sounds a lot cleaner. It sounds like there's less fighting going on between the pitches, probably because it's the waves are lining up more. How about that? Crazy. Any reactions at home to the fifth and the third? Maybe we'll put it all together again as well.
Yeah, a lot of people found the fifth hard to tell the difference. It was a pretty close call.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And we're currently hearing the third.
Remember, and the third is a bigger difference. Remember, the third is 14 cents lower in just intonation. So yeah, it's a bigger difference. And the third is just 2 cents higher, so it's only a tiny, tiny bit higher. We're going to hear the whole chord again. So there's the root note, the third, and the fifth. Equal temperament first. And just intonation. Let's listen one more time. Let your ear hear the difference. Yeah, to me the second one, the just intonation, is sounding much more pleasing now after I've listened to it a bunch of times.
Tim says that the third didn't sound different in pitch, but just sounded more dissonant. The equal temperament.
Yeah, and these changes in pitch are very, very slight. As you saw, it was only like what 0.0099 was the difference in a major third, which is about 14 cents, so 14% of a semitone. That's a very small amount, and yeah, it's you could argue that rather than hearing a difference in pitch, what we're hearing is more so is a difference in the consonants of the interval. Maybe one thing we could do actually is just hear the third on its own and see if you can actually hear the difference. So here's the E, equal tempered E, and then we're going to tune it down as though it's a third. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I could hear it definitely dip just a tiny bit in the just intonation version. Okay, we're going to move on. We got lots of cool stuff to get to. Yes, moving on. Oh yeah, we've looked at this one. So yeah, that was our equal tempered C chord versus our just intonation C chord, and the differences here. The bigger difference is in the third. The fifth was pretty similar. The bigger difference was in the third. Now here's a fantastic graphic from Andrew Cole, in which he shows the waveform of an equal tempered triad. So he used a C chord as well. So this is equal tempered like on the piano, and the just intonation, so the pure intervals from physics. So this is pretty cool to see because the waves start together and then they diverge because they're different pitches. Yes. And then when they converge again, we can see if we zoom in, they aren't really properly converging again. They're just a little bit off. So the major third, the E is too sharp. It's coming in, see the blue line is coming in early because it's too sharp. It needs to be tuned down 14 cents, so that's 14% of a semitone. And the perfect fifth is very slightly flat. It's coming in late. That's the pink line. And needs to be tuned up 2 cents. So this chord is out of tune. It's not tuned according to just intonation. The intervals are not pure. Let's contrast that with the just intonation version. Again, it starts the same. The pitches diverge because they're different pitches, and then when they come back together here, look at that, beautiful. It just nails it. It comes right back together, and it's in tune. So it was corrected by lifting the fifth by 2 cents and lowering the third by 14 cents. So we get these beautiful ratios here. So 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, or also represented as 3/2 for the fifth, which is the same kind of thing. There's a similar graphic here, which is a dominant seventh chord. Hey, our favorite chord. So ba 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 ba, our barbershop seventh chord. So this is the equal temperament version, and so it starts together, and you can see when it gets to here, it's just a mess. I think Andrew used the phrase "dog's breakfast" when looking at this here. So the minor seventh is way too sharp. It's winning the race. It's coming in first. It needs to be tuned down 31 cents. The major third is too sharp. It needs to tune down 14 cents. The perfect fifth is very slightly flat. It needs to be tuned up 2 cents. So let's redo it with just intonation, and then we see when the waves converge again there. Beautiful, all together at once. And that was the correction. So look at the seventh is the one that needs to be corrected the most, because on the piano in equal temperament, the seventh is way too sharp. It's 31 cents sharp, and it needs to be tuned down a whopping 31 cents. That's nearly a third of a semitone. It's very noticeable when you listen to it. We're going to hear some examples very soon. So anyway, yeah, these graphics, awesome graphics, courtesy of Andrew Cole. All right, this is what you've all been waiting for. Bringing it to barbershop. Let's apply the principles of just intonation to some barbershop chord progressions. We're going to use the 5-chord change, which is the mi, me, ma, mo, mu exercise, which we all know because we sing it every week, and 8 bars of Down Our Way. That's why I sent out Down Our Way the other day, so that you all could have a listen to it if you weren't familiar with it, and because we're going to play around with it and break it. Now we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it into just intonation. Okay, the main difference to notice is that when tuned to just intonation, sevenths are much lower, thirds are also a bit lower, and fifths are a bit higher. Thus, the baritone and tenor parts are most affected, as they get the majority of thirds and sevenths. So we've got Mike McGee, he's the baritone, and Roger Ross, he's the tenor. I just realised that their names alliterate. That's pretty cool. Mike McGee, Roger Ross. Those guys are gonna, they're the baritone and the tenor. They have to do the most work if you want to sing with just intonation, Main Street. Bringing it to barbershop, the 5-chord change. Here is the warm-up exercise known as the 5-chord change. We've added cent corrections to each note. These tell you how much sharper, which is higher, or flatter, which is lower, to tune each note relative to equal temperament. And by the way, 1 cent is 1/100th of a semitone. You can see that fifths need to be raised by 2 cents, so that's a little green +2 on this graphic here. So baritone, you start on the fifth, you need to lift that fifth by 2 cents. Thirds need to be lowered by 14 cents. So the tenors, you actually need to sing that third down a bit compared to the piano. The sevenths need to be lowered by a whopping 31 cents. So baritones, when you get to that second note, that's got to be a lot lower than the note on the piano. And ninths need to be raised by 4 cents. There are no ninths in this one, but we'll get to some ninths a bit later on. Root notes remain unchanged. So you can see it just says 0 for all the root notes. So we've kept the root notes. The root notes are true to equal temperament because they're kind of our reference point, but we tune vertically around those notes. There's other theories about how to apply just intonation. is maybe do is fixed and everything else moves in relation to do. So even if it's a root note of a different chord, so you're in the key of B flat and you go to a D7 chord, maybe the D is also tuned differently. In just intonation, there's different theories, different ways to apply it. What I've done is just kept it simple. I'll keep all the root notes true to equal temperament and tune everything else by the pure intervals. Okay, this is a fun graphic too, except we need to open up. Where is it? 5-chord exercise, equal temperament. So I'm just opening up two Audacity projects, which is the 5-chord change in 2 incarnations. So we'll hear the equal temperament one first. So I should have really switched these two around, but the equal temperament one's on the bottom. I probably should have put them on first because we're going to listen to this one first. So what I did, this was quite painstaking, but I got all of the frequencies for all of the pitches in this exercise and entered it into Audacity so we could hear it as an equal temperament version. Then I changed it into just intonation. So what I did is I just kept the root note the same. Oh, by the way, all the red ones are the root notes. So the root notes are the same, but I tuned everything that wasn't a root note. So let's listen to equal temperament version first. Equal temp. This is the Mi, Me, Ma, Mo, Mu exercise. 3, 2, 1. There it is. That's the exercise we know every week. Let's listen to it one more time. Sounds pretty well in tune to me. 3, 2, 1. There we go. That's the Mi, Me, Ma, Mo, Mu exercise. Let's come back to this. So that was the equal temperament one. This one here, and now what we're going to do is listen to a just intonation. So we've fixed, we've made all of the intervals pure intervals by calculating them using simple ratios. So for a third, to calculate this third, which is the green, all the thirds are in green, I would have used the ratio 5/4. So I would take that C4, divide it by 4, multiply it by 5, and then I'd get 327.0375. And then to calculate a seventh, that's the ratio of 7/4. So I would take this C, I'd take C4, and I'll actually halve the frequency to drop it down the octave, then go divide by 4 times by 7 to get this frequency for B flat, 228.92625. bit of a long number, but that's how we figured it out. So let's listen to just intonation version. 3, 2, 1. Did you hear the difference at home? Perhaps, perhaps not. I'm just going to do this so we can actually look at both of them. And there we go. Okay, let's listen to them a bit with less time in between. So this is the equal temperament version. 3, 2, 1. And this is the just intonation version. Did you hear the difference at home? Let us know. What did you notice? We have a question.
Yeah, so Peter Thomas wants to know if you're going to mark up all of our sheet music with how flat you need to be.
Well, yeah. Well, at the end of the presentation, I'll tell you my thoughts about how we can and if we should apply this to what we sing in the Chordsmen, and what are the can we apply it? Like realistically, can it be applied? Yeah. So yeah, excellent question. I'm going to show you well, I've already showed you one little markup, haven't I? That's of the this page here. So the me may mama moo exercise marked up like this, and this is Andrew Cole's system actually, marking +2 for the fifths and -14 for the thirds and so on. I think it's a really cool little system. Who knows? Maybe it could take off.
Stephen said that the difference was much more obvious when you played them in quick succession.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's listen to it again, and I might isolate some parts as well, so you can hear what the difference is from part to part. So here we go. This is me, may, mama, moo, equal temperament. And this is me, may, mama, moo, just intonation. Cool. Did you hear the difference? Now I want you to listen for. I'm going to play the tenor part solo, just to illustrate a couple of points. So, if we look back at this one, you can see that the tenor starts on E, but he's singing it 14 cents flatter than the piano. Then he goes up to an F, so that's a semitone up, but it's going to be a big semitone because he's going from his flat E to a neutral F, because it's a root note, so it just stays flat. It's on the money. Then he sings another F, but it's tuned 31 cents flat because it's now the 7th of the chord. So it's significantly flat, and you will hear this difference. So he hasn't moved on the paper, but he's moved 31 cents down. And then he's gonna go from F to E, but it's going to be a very small semitone because, it's going to be a smaller than usual semitone because he's already 31 cents flat, and he's going to go down to 14 cents flat. So what's the difference there? 16, 17. 17, yeah. So a semitone minus 17 cents. Okay, so we're going to hear just the tenor part. Tenor solo. Here goes the tenor. Did you hear that? Wow. Hugely more flat on the 7th, the 4th chord. I'm going to bring up my pitch lab, and I'm going to just hold it in front of my face so you can see what the pitch is doing from the tenor part. Here we go. Oh wait, what am I talking about? It's not going to pick it up. Sorry, I just had a stupid moment there. I thought it would, but of course I'm using earbuds, and it's not going to be loud if I take out the earbuds. So never mind about the pitch lab, but you can see it really obviously on the pitch lab. If you've got pitch lab at home, you can try it out. But isn't that crazy how the tenor part changes that much? Let's also listen to the other part, which is greatly affected, is the baritone part. Because look, the baritone has to sing the 5th a little bit higher, then the 7th massively flatter, and the 3rd bit flatter than that, then an even G for the root note, and then up a little bit at the end for the 5th. So let's hear the baritone solo. quite as stark as the tenor. The tenor one is stark because you hear him sing an F twice, but the second time it's a 7, so it's way lower. Let's listen to the baritone one more time. Okay, I'm going to just bring in a couple of other parts now. So let's bring the bass in. This is a bass baritone duet. That was bass baritone. Let's bring in the lead, so a trio with no tenor. Whoops. I really like this major chord here, so without the 7th on the top, it's just a major chord. That sounds really nice to my ears. And then finally, bring the tenor back in. Okay. What I'm going to do now is we'll listen to the just intonation one more time, and then we'll go back to equal temperament and see how our ears feel about that. So here is just intonation. And here is equal temperament. Well, I think that difference is very stark. After I've been listening to just intonation for a while and then I go back to equal temperament, the difference to me is very stark. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd love to know what your reaction is. Did your ears hate you? Did they love you? What was your reaction at home? Let us know. Yeah, for all you barbershop music theory nerds at home who would like to do something like this, I encourage you to do it. It was kind of fun just to calculate this out and enter it into Audacity as a bit of an experiment and just see what it's like to take a familiar chord progression, render it in both equal temperament and just intonation, and listen back to it and see what the difference is. Can I notice the difference? How big is the difference? Does it sound better? Do I like the sound of just intonation more? I am warming to it, I have to say. I'm warming to it a lot. It's got me thinking about a lot of possibilities. But it's gotta go. Depending on how long you've been listening to music for, you might have to go against the grain of what you have known your whole life. Any reactions from people at home?
Someone said that one of them sounded harsher.
One of them sounded... Which one?
We don't know.
We don't know.
But it could be their imagination.
It could be their imagination.
Yeah. Peter Thomas says, no, I think I failed the exam.
Oh.
and Stephen... sorry. Pete said he got a headache. Paul says equal temperament was easier to listen to. Frank says, for me, just intonation is very buzzy compared to equal temperament.
That's interesting. I think the other way around. Let me listen one more time. So we'll go just intonation, and then we'll go back to equal temperament. So this is just intonation. And this is equal temperament, like the piano. To me, the equal temperament is now the buzzy sounding one, because I can hear the fighting between the pitches, and that manifests itself as buzziness to my ears.
Peter Brown.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Peter Brown asks if MP3s of these tunings could be uploaded
Yeah.
to learning resource.
Sure, if you like. They're not very long, but I can do that for you if you like. Yeah, I'll try and put that with the presentation. And you can always just come back and watch this video again if you like. Okay, I'm going to move on because we've got another barbershop thing to look at. Da, 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 da. Okay, bringing it to barbershop. Down our way. Here is the first 8 bars of Down Our Way. This is a barbershop polka, so a barbershop standard song that most barbershoppers will know how to sing or at least be familiar with all around the world. So we've added cent corrections to each note. These tell you how much sharper or flatter to tune each note relative to equal temperament. 1 cent equals 1/100th of a semitone. And as before, you can see that fifths need to be raised by 2 cents, thirds need to be lowered by 14 cents, sevenths need to be lowered by a whopping 31 cents, ninths, I think there's 1/9 there, ninths need to be raised by 4 cents, and root notes remain unchanged. Okay, down our way. So here is Down Our Way rendered as equal temperament. Those are all the pitches, so straight off the piano basically. And just intonation, where we kept the root notes true to the piano, but the thirds and the sevenths and the ninths were tuned using pure intervals. So let's have a listen. I need to close a couple of these and open some new ones. Where is it? Down Our Way. Okay, so we've got just intonation and equal temperament. So we've got equal temperament on the left and just intonation on the right. So we'll start with equal temperament, and I might go back to this graphic to look at. So here's equal. Oops, I can't do this quickly. No. This one. Okay, here we go. Equal temperament first. That's barbershop right there. That's barbershop. Okay, so let's have a listen to it in just intonation. Did you hear the difference? We're going to listen to them both again. So, firstly, equal temperament. And just intonation. Did you hear the difference at home? So these little cent corrections on this, the plus 2, minus 14, etc., that's what you're hearing applied in the just intonation version. I think we need to listen again at home. This is equal temperament. this is just intonation. Okay, did you notice it at home? What did we hear from people?
Frank says, "How sweet the sound of equal temperament." But Pete Packerpat says, "Real voices or instruments have lots of overtones,
True.
which will benefit much more from just intonation."
Yes, that is very true. Unfortunately, I couldn't find four singers that can sing perfectly straight tone and switch from just intonation to equal temperament at the drop of a hat. So I had to do it in Audacity. But yeah, very, very good point, Pete. Yeah, we get it. The sound rings more with voices, for sure. So I'd like to play you a couple of examples of the individual parts. So, and maybe some duets actually. Let's start with a lead bass duet. So what's going to be interesting about a lead bass duet? Well, the lead bass has mostly. Well, let's analyze the intervals. So we've got octave plus a third, then we have a perfect fifth, then a perfect fourth, then a flat seventh. That's going to be an interesting one because remember flat sevenths are tuned really low. See, minus 31. Then a perfect fifth, then a perfect fifth, then a perfect fourth. So lots of perfect intervals. So fifths and fourths are perfect. And we've got major third, flats, a minor seventh. So, but mostly fourths and fifth, isn't it, with the bass and the bass and the lead? That's pretty typical. Let's have a listen. Okay, that was just intonation, by the way. I didn't say that. Just for comparison, we'll go from equal temperament to just intonation. This is equal temperament, lead and bass. This is just intonation, lead and bass. I think the difference is most pronounced on the word both, which is only there for a second really, but because the seventh is tuned much lower. So leads, when you're singing this, if you want to sing it with just intonation, you go from a G, which is just the same as the piano, to a significantly flat F there. So it's a big tone from a G down to a flat F. Let's hear baritone and bass. So baritone and bass, equal temperament first. And now baritone and bass, just intonation. I don't know about you guys, but I can really hear the difference there because the baritone has a lot of sevenths. So look, it goes from root note to a seventh, which is really low tuned, to a third, which is a bit low tuned, still a third, a seventh again, very low seventh, very low seventh. So lots of sevenths there. Let's hear that one more time. Bass, baritone, equal temperament. bass baritone, just intonation. Cool. Did you hear the difference? Let me know. Let's hear the bass and the tenor duet. So bass tenor, equal temperament first. Okay, and now bass tenor, just intonation. Wow, did you notice the difference there? I think the biggest difference is on this chord. Probably because of the context here. So that is, the tenor's on a 7th, and it's exposed too because it's on the top of the chord. And the 7th is tuned 31 cents lower. And also we have the difference is highlighted because we have the tenor as an F, on the F as a 5th, so being tuned up by 2, and then after one note being tuned on the same note F, but being tuned down 31. So the difference between this F and that F is 33 cents, which is a third of a semitone, which is very noticeable. And then with the third in the middle there. Let's listen to that again. So hear the difference. So this is equal temperament first. And this is just intonation, bass tenor. I think that difference is huge, especially on this chord here, down our way. Alright, we better put it all back together now. Or, do we want to hear any other duets just for fun? How about lead and tenor? Yeah, let's see lead and tenor. Lead tenor, this is equal temperament. This is lead tenor, just intonation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when we get to this chord, the way chord, the third chord, the tenor doesn't sound as flat and weird when I've got the lead there. Probably because the lead's on the root note. And so the tenor, that 7th is being calculated based on the root note. So it's a perfect, it's a simple interval of 7/4. So to me that 7th from the tenor sounds less weird when, I was going to say less dissonant, but of course it's actually more consonant. It sounds less weird to my ears when we have the root note there as well. Let's listen to the tenor lead again. So this is tenor lead, equal temp. This is tenor lead, just intonation. Okay, we haven't heard, so we'll do a different duet now. Let's do lead and baritone together. So lead baritone, equal temperament. baritone just intonation. I'm really starting to like the just intonation. That's just me. And we better hear the final duet, which is baritone and tenor. Oh my god. This is baritone and tenor, equal temperament. Okay, and this is baritone and tenor, just intonation. Lots of juicy tritones between the B flat and the E natural on these last three chords. It's a tritone, which is not a heaps consonant interval. Well, actually, I want to find out exactly how consonant it is. So why don't we go back to a tritone is a ratio of 7/5. Okay, so yeah, it's still a relatively simple interval, isn't it? Definitely not as pleasing as a fifth, which is 2/3. Sorry, 3/2. Much more consonant. Okay, and then finally we're going to hear them all together again. So equal temperament. Got my equal temperament quartet on the left. Here we go. Equal temperament quartet, go. Just intonation quartet, go. Now it might just be me, but I'm really starting to like the just intonation, especially when it all comes back together as a quartet. I am loving it. Okay. Jordy, have we got any more questions, comments coming?
No, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. People are just too busy having their minds exploded at home. Okay, so that was so that's Down Our Way with some scent corrections on it. Now, I just wanted to say that this is the first time I've done kind of experiments with just intonation like this. I've sort of known a little bit about it and known that you're supposed to tune the sevenths down and tune the fifths up and stuff like that. But it's really cool to be able to render a song that you know, like Down Our Way, which I've sung 100 times, and start listening to it as both equal temperament and just intonation and getting used to the difference in the sound. And as you saw, that particularly the baritone and the tenor parts are affected. So if singing sevenths and thirds, those are the intervals that are the most affected. Yeah, after a while, I'm really starting to like the just intonation stuff. The other day I did a bit of a test. I got my Pitch Lab app and I listened to a Tim track. So one of the learning tracks by Tim Warwick. I think it was the Down Our Way track, to see whether he's kind of sticking to equal temperament or whether he's sticking to just intonation, and he's a little bit between. He it looked as though the lead and the bass were staying pretty darn close to equal temperament, and the tenor was pulling down on the sevenths a bit, but not as much as what I saw in and what I heard in Audacity when I tuned it, when I wrote it in equal temperament. Those sevenths were way low, and Tim wasn't quite going that low, so he was doing something in between, I think. Probably tuning it by ear, so it was closer to just intonation than equal temperament, but not the whole way there. I don't even know if there are any quartets or singers that in the barbershop world that are being very rigorous about whether they're singing in just intonation or not. I mean, and certainly when I sing, it's really hard to calculate. Oh, I need to pull this note down by 31 cents, or I need to lift this one up by 2 cents. I'm just doing it by ear, and if it some of those simpler intervals like the fifths and the octaves and the thirds, those ones I can really tell, like, oh, this feels in tune. Is it perfectly in tune, and am I holding my note dead straight? Probably not, but it sounds to my ear to be in tune, and that's kind of what we're going for is ear tuning. It did cross my mind that an interesting experiment to do would be to take one of our, let's say, take our just intonation down our way version here, use that as learning tracks and then sing over them so you know you're in tune to just intonation, and then use that as learning tracks. That could be an interesting way, an interesting experiment to go down, and we could try learning a song that way. Yeah, but I welcome your thoughts or your reactions to Down Our Way. To Just Intonation and Down Our Way. While I'm here, I might. Well, while we've got a little bit of time, I'm just going to show you this. It's going to take a couple of minutes. So I've got some more slides from Andrew Cole, and he showed me this cool one where he's got some graphs of a major chord being tuned gradually from, here we go. How do I full screen this? Okay, so what's going on here is we're taking an equal tempered triad. It's going a bit fast, but and it's gradually tuning to equal temperament. Okay. So an equal tempered triad, and this is the beat frequency. So you can sort of see these humps of over the top of the purple line there, and so gradually tuning the chord, these humps, this beat frequency starts to get more, it gets smoothed out, and so you see it's smoother and smoother, and then we go to the next slide. Tune the chord coming into tune, the beat frequency is slowing. The chord is nearly a just intonation major triad, and you can still see that there's a kind of a wave happening with the beat frequency. And then finally, when the perfect ratio is achieved, chord is now still. So that's kind of what we did back at the beginning. We were listening to tuning our major chord, equal temp versus just intonation. I think the first one sounded more still. I'll just bring that one up quickly for you. So now that you've spent a lot of time listening to this, listening to just intonation versus equal temperament, go back to the first chord we listened to. Here we go. C major, equal temp. And just intonation. I mean, to me the difference is big. To me, the second one, the just intonation, sounds more still. Yes, question.
So, Mike asks, when would you see a chorus use just intonation rather than equal temperament? Perhaps in a tag in a ballad?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's not like a chorus. You'd have to get out, and unless your ear is perfect and you can listen and know that they're tuning to just intonation the whole time, it would be impossible for you to tell, because probably it's changing moment by moment. So on certain chords they'll be closer to just intonation, on other chords not so much. But if you've ever heard, a quartet or a chorus reach a chord and it just really seems to lock together, and you get the goosebumps and the spine tingles, then they're probably singing in just intonation for that chord or very close. And the tuning just feels that good, then yeah, they're probably closer to just intonation than at any other time in the song. Yeah, another question?
So which one is right?
Oh, which one is right? That's a hell of a question. It depends. So it depends how you're defining right, because in tune to the piano, for most people in the Western world, that's in tune, that's equal temperament. But if you go by the laws of physics and the laws of nature, that is not in tune, and the intervals need to form simple ratios to be in tune, which is just intonation. And I know just intonation sounds weird at first when you hear a chord in just intonation. And I think most of that is to do with our conditioning by having been saturated in equal temperament for our entire lives. Unless you've happened to be listening to just intonation all the time somehow. Yeah, but I think it's a whole new world to explore. What are the practical applications? I don't know yet. But it's something to explore. But know that, like, when we sing and we really listen to each other and we tune by ear, then we're getting closer to just intonation. That's what's happening. And you feel it as much as hear it. Because those waves are lining up when you really rock a fifth and it sounds solid and it sounds pleasing and it sounds in tune, then you're approaching just intonation, or you're at just intonation. It has its validating factor is the fact that the waves line up. So if you take away is it good, is it bad, do I like it, do I not like it, you can take all that away and are the waves lining up, then yes, it's just intonation. So it's kind of like, it's the physics of it. It's the science of it. It's a dispassionate thing. But it sounds pretty awesome to me. So, Any other questions?
Frank says that you observed earlier, in quotation marks, now that's barbershop. And you're actually listening to an equal temperament section.
Yeah, I was, Frank, yes. I just said that because it was down our way. You know what I mean? It was a well-known barbershop tune. But yeah, it's very recognizable. Like, you hear it and you go, oh yeah, there's some barbershop chords right there. But maybe next time I hear it, I'll be like, ooh, that's equal temperament. Give me some of that sweet, sweet just intonation. Any other thoughts?
Tim just seems to say it's the vibe, man.
It's just the vibe of it, man. Tell him you're dreaming. Okay, well, I'm happy to wrap things up. If there's no final questions, I will send out this slideshow to you. And Peter Brown requested the audio file, so yeah, I'll send that to you as well. I can just quickly export these and put them in a folder or something. Yeah, happy to do that for y'all. Cool. Over and out, guys. Stay safe. Stay tuned for what we're doing next week. It's going to be fun.